Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell had been a Navy SEAL for 12 years, one of only a handful of women to ever earn the Trident. At 34, she'd served in places most Americans couldn't find on a map, doing things she could never talk about. Her teammates called her Iron Six because nothing seemed to shake her. Not the brutal training, not the impossible missions, not even the skeptics who said women didn't belong in special operations. But now, lying in a dirt-covered alley in a small Afghan village, bleeding from a gunshot wound to her shoulder and a deep gash across her ribs, Sarah felt her iron resolve beginning to crack. The mission had gone sideways fast. What should have been a simple reconnaissance had turned into a firefight when their position was compromised. Sarah's team had extracted under heavy fire, but she'd stayed behind to cover their escape. By the time she made it to the rally point, her team was gone, and a second enemy patrol was closing in. She'd run through the maze of mud brick buildings until her legs gave out. Now she was hidden behind a stack of old crates, trying to slow her breathing, trying to stop the bleeding, trying not to pass out. That's when she heard the helicopter. The Black Hawk touched down in a clearing 200 yards away. Sarah could see the crew chief gesturing, searching for her. They'd come back. Her team hadn't left her after all. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. The world tilted sideways. She pressed her hand harder against her ribs, feeling warm blood seep through her fingers. "Here," she tried to shout, but it came out as barely a whisper. Two figures ran toward her position. As they got closer, Sarah could see they weren't her teammates. These were Marines, probably from a nearby forward operating base. The first one, a young woman who looked barely old enough to drink, reached her first. "Ma'am, we've got you," the young Marine said, kneeling beside Sarah. Her name tape read Chen. Behind her, a male Marine named Rodriguez began setting up security. Sarah tried to focus on Chen's face, but everything was getting blurry. "My team," she managed. "They're safe. They sent us to get you. Let me check your wounds." Chen reached for Sarah's shoulder, but Sarah pulled away sharply, nearly losing her balance. Pain shot through her body like lightning. "Don't," Sarah said through gritted teeth. "Ma'am, you're losing blood. We need to." "I said don't touch me." Chen sat back on her heels, confused. Rodriguez glanced over, concern creasing his young face. "Commander Mitchell," Chen said carefully, "I'm a combat medic. You need treatment now, or you're not going to make it to that helicopter." Sarah's vision was tunneling. She could hear her own heartbeat, too fast, too weak. She knew Chen was right. She knew she was being irrational. But something deep in her gut was screaming at her not to let anyone near her wounds, not to accept help, not here, not now. "Get back," Sarah said, her voice barely audible. In the distance, she could hear the Black Hawk's engines revving. They needed to leave before enemy reinforcements arrived. Every second mattered. Chen looked at Rodriguez helplessly. The young Marine corporal shook his head. "We can't force her, but we can't leave her either." Sarah's head drooped forward. She was fatting fast. Images flashed through her mind. Her team, the mission, something else, something important she needed to remember, needed to protect. "Ma'am," Chen said, her voice urgent now, "if you don't let me help you right now, you're going to die in this alley. Is that what you want?" Sarah's lips moved, but no sound came out. Chen leaned closer, trying to hear. The helicopter's rotors were getting louder. They were running out of time. And then Sarah said it, so quietly that Chen almost missed it. "Code Black, 36 hours." Chen froze. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Rodriguez, who was watching the surrounding buildings for threats, oblivious to what Sarah had just said. Those 4 words changed everything. Chen sat perfectly still for 3 heartbeats, staring at Sarah's pale, blood-streaked face. Code Black, 36 hours. Those weren't just random words. They were a message, a warning, and a plea for help all wrapped into one. "Rodriguez," Chen said, her voice suddenly steady and commanding in a way that made the corporal turn immediately. "I need you to bring the stretcher. Now, and when you come back, I need you to set security 20 meters out. Nobody gets close. Nobody." Rodriguez looked puzzled, but, "Now, Marine." Something in Chen's tone made him move without further question. As soon as he was out of earshot, Chen leaned close to Sarah's ear. "Operation Nightingale," she whispered. "I understand." Sarah's eyes, which had been sliding shut, suddenly snapped open. She stared at Chen with such intensity that the young Marine felt it in her bones. "How?" Sarah breathed. "My sister," Chen said quietly, working quickly now to pack Sarah's wounds with gauze. "She was Air Force, intelligence. She briefed me before she disappeared 8 months ago. She made me memorize the codes. Said if I ever heard one, especially Code Black, I needed to protect the source at all costs. No questions asked." Sarah grabbed Chen's wrist with surprising strength. "Your sister, Captain Maya Chen." "Yes." "She's alive," Sarah said. "She's part of it, part of what I know." Chen's hands trembled as she taped the bandages in place. Her sister, alive. For 8 months the family had been told Maya was missing in action, presumed dead. No details, no explanation, just a flag and a memorial service with a closed casket that held nothing but weighted sand. "Where is she?" Chen asked. "Can't tell you, not yet, but if I don't get this information back." Sarah's voice trailed off as another wave of pain hit her. Rodriguez returned with the stretcher. Together, they carefully loaded Sarah onto it. Every movement made her gasp, but she bit down on the sounds, refusing to cry out. On the helicopter ride back to the base, Chen stayed close to Sarah, monitoring her vitals. The SEAL commander drifted in and out of consciousness, but whenever she surfaced, her eyes found Chen's face. The Black Hawk landed at Forward Operating Base Falcon, a sprawling military installation that housed units from all branches of service. As they wheeled Sarah toward the medical tent, a group of officers approached. Chen recognized the insignia of a Navy captain and what looked like 2 Army colonels. "Commander Mitchell," the Navy captain said, his voice cold and formal. "We'll take it from here." Chen didn't move away from the stretcher. "Marine," one of the colonels said sharply, "you're dismissed." "Sir, respectfully, I'm the primary medic on this casualty. I need to." "You need to follow orders, Corporal Chen," the captain interrupted. "This is a matter of operational security. You're not cleared for this patient." Sarah's hand shot out and grabbed the rail of the stretcher. "She stays," she said, her voice weak but clear. The captain's face hardened. "Commander Mitchell, you're not in a position to make demands. You're wounded, possibly delirious, and—" "I'm invoking Article 31, Sarah said. "And I'm requesting Corporal Chen as my medical advocate under Military Code 10 USC 1102. She's the only medic I consent to treat me." The officers exchanged glances. What Sarah was doing was unusual, but technically within regulations. "This is highly irregular," the captain said. "So is Code Black," Sarah replied, staring directly at him. The captain's expression changed. Something flickered in his eyes. Was it recognition? Fear? Chen couldn't tell, but the air suddenly felt heavy with unspoken tension. "Very well," the captain said slowly. "Corporal Chen will continue treatment. But Commander Mitchell, we need to debrief you immediately regarding your mission." "After medical treatment," Sarah said, "not before." "Commander." "That's an order, Captain." Despite her wounds, despite her weakness, Sarah's voice carried the weight of 12 years of service, of countless operations, of a rank and reputation that commanded respect. "Or would you like me to contact Admiral Reeves directly?" The mention of the Admiral's name made all 3 officers stiffen. 48 hours, the captain said finally. "You have 48 hours to recover. Then we talk, and Commander, don't leave this base." It sounded like a suggestion, but Chen heard it for what it was, a threat. As they wheeled Sarah into the medical tent, Chen noticed something that made her blood run cold. The captain pulled out his phone and walked away, speaking urgently to someone. And in the shadows near the base perimeter, Chen spotted two men in civilian clothes watching the medical tent. They weren't journalists, they weren't contractors. They were watching Sarah like a prisoner, not a wounded hero. And suddenly Chen understood. Sarah wasn't just injured. She was in danger. And whatever secret she was carrying, there were people on this base who would do anything to make sure it never got out. Inside the medical tent, Chen worked methodically to clean and dress Sarah's wounds. The shoulder injury was a through-and-through, painful but manageable. The rib wound was worse, deep and angry, but it had missed major organs. With proper care, Sarah would recover. But recovery time wasn't what worried Chen. It was the clock that Sarah kept glancing at, the way her jaw tightened every time she checked the time, the barely concealed fear in her eyes. 36 hours, Chen said quietly as she sutured the rib wound. What happens then? Sarah was silent for a long moment. The tent was empty except for them. Chen had insisted on privacy for the procedure, and surprisingly the officers had allowed it. But she could see shadows moving outside the canvas walls. They were being watched. In 36 hours, a convoy leaves Bagram Air Base, Sarah finally said, her voice low. Routine supply transport, or so the manifest says, but in one of those containers is something else, something that was never supposed to exist, something worth killing for. What is it? Evidence, Sarah said. Proof of what's really been happening in these mountains. Not the war we tell the American people about. The other one. The one that makes certain people very, very rich. Chen's hands paused. What are you talking about? Sarah closed her eyes. When she opened them again, Chen saw something she'd never expected to see in a Navy SEAL's face. Helplessness. 3 months ago, my team was sent on a mission to raid what we were told was a Taliban weapons cache. But when we got there, it wasn't Taliban. It was Americans. Private contractors, former military, all working for a company called Sentinel Defense Group. They were running drugs. Not confiscating them, not destroying them, running them. Millions of dollars worth of opium and heroin moving through military supply chains, hidden in equipment shipments back to the States. Chen felt her stomach drop. That's impossible, the oversight, the inspections. They had people everywhere, Sarah continued. Officers taking bribes, inspectors looking the other way, even some politicians back home making sure the right palms got greased. My team stumbled onto the whole operation by accident. We weren't supposed to be there that night. Wrong coordinates, they said later. A mistake. But you saw something. I saw everything, and I documented it. Photos, videos, names, shipping manifests. I stored it all on an encrypted drive. That drive is hidden in my gear, which is currently in the evidence lockup on this base. Chen understood now. And that convoy leaving Bagram is their next shipment. If it leaves, if it reaches American soil, the evidence I have won't matter. The product will be distributed, sold, and gone. The people involved will clean house, eliminate witnesses, and my proof becomes just another conspiracy theory. Your team, Chen said, do they know? Sarah's face tightened with pain that had nothing to do with her wounds. They're dead. All 6 of them. The mission report says they died in combat 3 weeks ago. Heroic last stand against overwhelming enemy forces. But I know the truth. They were executed, murdered by the same people who are supposed to be on our side. How did you survive? I wasn't there when it happened. I'd been reassigned to a different operation. When I heard what happened, I knew it wasn't real. I went back to our last safe house and found a message from my team leader. He'd figured out they were going to be killed. He hid evidence, left clues, told me to finish what we started. Chen finished the last suture and taped a clean bandage over it. Her mind was racing. This was bigger than anything she'd imagined. If what Sarah was saying was true, it meant corruption at the highest levels, murder, and an ongoing criminal operation using American military resources. Why not go to your command? Chen asked. Surely there's someone. I tried, Sarah said bitterly. I went to my commanding officer. 2 days later, that officer died in a training accident. I went to Naval Criminal Investigative Service. My contact there disappeared. That's when I realized how deep this goes. That's when I initiated Code Black. What exactly is Code Black? It's a protocol that was created after Abu Ghraib, after all those scandals where the military tried to cover up crimes. A group of officers, good people, set up a network. If you discover something truly dangerous, something the official channels won't handle, you initiate Code Black. It means you can't trust anyone in your chain of command. It means you need to get the information directly to civilian oversight, Congress, DOJ, the media. And it means you have 36 hours to do it before you assume you've been compromised. And my sister knew about this protocol. Your sister was part of the network. She was investigating the same thing from the intelligence side. When she got too close, they made her disappear. But she's alive, Chen. I know where she is. And if we can expose this, we can bring her home. Chen's heart was pounding. Her sister. Alive, but in danger, hidden, waiting for someone to finish what she'd started. What do you need me to do? Chen asked. Before Sarah could answer, the tent flap burst open. The Navy captain from earlier strode in, followed by 2 military police officers. Commander Mitchell, he said, his voice hard as steel. I'm afraid there's been a change of plans. You're being transferred to Landstuhl Medical Center in Germany for advanced treatment. You'll be leaving within the hour. I don't need advanced treatment, Sarah said. That's not your decision to make. Your wounds require specialized care. The order comes from the top. Chen stepped forward. Sir, as her treating physician, I recommend against moving her. She's stable now, but transport could. Corporal, you're out of your depth here. These officers will escort Commander Mitchell to the transport plane. The MPs moved toward the bed. Sarah locked eyes with Chen, and in that moment, 1,000 unspoken words passed between them. If Sarah got on that plane, she would never make it to Germany. Chen was certain of it. Wait, Chen said. Everyone turned to look at her. And the young Marine corporal, who had always followed orders, who had never questioned authority, made a decision that would change everything. Part 4. The choice that changed everything. Sir, Chen said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins, Commander Mitchell is experiencing internal bleeding. I need to perform an emergency procedure before she can be moved. Medical protocol requires. Corporal Chen, the captain interrupted, his eyes cold, don't make this difficult. I'm not, sir. I'm following my medical training. If Commander Mitchell is transported in her current condition, she could die en route. That would be on your head, Captain, and on mine. The captain stared at her, clearly weighing his options. The 2 MPs shifted uncomfortably. Chen had put him in an impossible position. If he forced the transport and Sarah died, there would be questions. An investigation. Exactly the kind of attention he didn't want. You have 30 minutes, he finally said. Then she goes, stable or not. As soon as they left, Chen turned to Sarah. Can you walk? If I have to. Then you have to. Chen moved quickly, checking the tent's rear exit. That captain isn't sending you to Germany. He's making you disappear. We need to move now. Sarah struggled to sit up, wincing with pain. The evidence in the lockup. Where exactly? Building 7, evidence room. My gear bag marked with my service number. The drive is sewn into the lining of my tactical vest. Chen helped Sarah to her feet. The commander was shaky but determined. We'll never make it to Building 7. It's on the other side of the base. We don't have a choice. There's always a choice, Chen said. She grabbed a set of clean fatigues from a supply cabinet and helped Sarah change out of her bloody uniform. But we need help, someone we can trust. Rodriguez, Sarah said, you trust him. Chen thought about the young corporal who had accompanied her on the rescue. He was green, barely 22, but he had good instincts. More importantly, his father had been a Marine, and his grandfather before that. He came from a family that believed in honor, duty, and doing what was right even when it was hard. Yes, Chen said, I trust him. She pulled out her radio and switched to a personal channel. Rodriguez, it's Chen. I need you at the medical tent, back entrance, 5 minutes, and bring a vehicle. Everything okay, Corporal? No, but it will be, just trust me. Roger that. While they waited, Chen grabbed medical supplies, stuffing them into a backpack. Sarah leaned against the tent wall, breathing hard. Why are you doing this? Sarah asked. You could lose everything, your career, your freedom. My sister lost everything because she tried to do the right thing, Chen said. I'm not going to let that happen to you, or to anyone else. A soft whistle came from the back of the tent. Rodriguez appeared, driving a small utility vehicle. His eyes widened when he saw Sarah. Ma'am, you should be in bed. No time for should best, Corporal, Sarah said, climbing into the vehicle with Chen's help. We need to get to Building 7. Rodriguez looked at Chen. What's going on? Something bad, something we need to stop. Are you with us? The young Marine didn't hesitate. Always. They drove through the base, taking back routes, avoiding the main roads. Sarah directed them from the back seat, her hand pressed against her ribs. Chen watched the buildings pass, knowing that every second they were out in the open was a second they could be spotted. Building 7 was a low, concrete structure near the perimeter fence, the evidence lockup. Rodriguez pulled up to the side entrance and Chen jumped out. I'll go, she said. You two stay here if anything goes wrong. We come in after you, Rodriguez finished. No, if anything goes wrong, you get Commander Mitchell off this base, whatever it takes. Chen didn't wait for an argument. She walked through the entrance, nodding at the young private manning the desk. She'd treated him 2 weeks ago for a sprained ankle. He smiled at her. Hey, Corporal Chen, what brings you here? Need to retrieve some personal items from Commander Mitchell's gear. She's being transferred to Germany, and she forgot to grab her lucky charm before she got wounded. You know how these SEAL types are about their superstitions. The private laughed. Yeah, my cousin's a SEAL. Won't go anywhere without his stupid rabbit's foot. Let me check the log. He pulled out a clipboard, scanning entries. Mitchell, Sarah. Yeah, here we are. Bag came in this morning. I'll grab it for you. He disappeared into the back room. Chen's heart hammered in her chest. It was working. It was actually. The door behind her opened. The Navy captain walked in, followed by 4 armed security personnel. Corporal Chen, he said quietly, step away from the desk. Chen froze. The private emerged from the back room carrying Sarah's gear bag. He looked confused at the sudden tension in the room. Sir, the private said. Put the bag down and step aside, Private, the captain ordered. What's going on? The young soldier asked. Corporal Chen is under arrest for theft of classified materials and aiding in the escape of a person of interest, the captain said. His eyes never left Chen's face. Where is Commander Mitchell? Chen's mind raced. If she told them, Sarah was dead. If she didn't, they'd just search the base and find her anyway, and they'd go through Chen to do it. I don't know what you're talking about, sir, Chen said. The captain nodded to one of the security personnel who grabbed Chen's arm roughly. Search the area, find Mitchell, and bring me that gear bag. As they moved to take her away, Chen made a split-second decision. She lunged for the gear bag, grabbing it off the counter. She didn't make it 2 steps before security tackled her to the ground. The impact drove the air from her lungs. But in those 2 steps, she'd done something important. She triggered the small transmitter she'd placed in her pocket, the one every combat medic carried to signal for emergency extraction. Rodriguez would get the signal. He would know she was in trouble. And more importantly, he would know to run. As they dragged Chen away, the captain picked up the gear bag personally. He opened it, searching through the contents. Chen watched him, saying nothing, her face expressionless. The captain's hands found the tactical vest. He felt along the lining, his fingers searching for the hidden pocket where Sarah had sewn the drive. His face went pale, then red with fury. The pocket was empty. The drive was gone. Rodriguez drove like his life depended on it, because it did. Sarah, barely conscious in the passenger seat, clutched her side with one hand. In the other hand, she held the small, encrypted drive that Chen had somehow slipped into her pocket during the medical treatment, when no one was watching. "Where are we going?" Rodriguez asked, swerving around a supply truck. "The airfield," Sarah said through gritted teeth. "There's a transport leaving for Qatar in 20 minutes. Commercial contractor flight, not military. They'll stop us at the gate." "Not if we're already dead." Rodriguez glanced at her, confused. Sarah pulled out her radio and switched to an emergency frequency. "This is Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell, service number 4,478,219. I am initiating a code black distress signal. Urgent evacuation required. 2 personnel critical injuries. Hostile forces in pursuit. Request immediate extraction at civilian airfield south side. Authorization code, Nightingale 77 Delta." She switched off the radio. Rodriguez stared at her. "That'll bring everyone running," he said. "That's the point, create chaos. In chaos we slip through." Behind them, sirens began to wail. The base was going into lockdown, but Sarah had gambled correctly. The code black signal had triggered multiple response protocols. Medical, security, command. Everyone was suddenly mobilizing, and in the confusion, no one was quite sure who was chasing whom. They reached the civilian airfield just as a twin-engine cargo plane was completing its pre-flight. Rodriguez didn't slow down. He drove straight onto the tarmac, stopping beside the aircraft. A crew chief stepped out, shouting in protest. Then he saw Sarah's condition, the blood on her uniform, the insignia that marked her as a SEAL. "We need a ride," Sarah said simply, "and we need it now." The crew chief looked at the chaos erupting across the base, at the young Marine with fear and determination in his eyes, at this wounded warrior who was clearly running from something. He was former Army. He'd seen enough in his 20 years to know when something wasn't right, and he'd learned to trust his gut. "Get in," he said. "Strap down, we're wheels up in 2 minutes." The plane was barely airborne when military vehicles surrounded the airfield below. But they were too late. The contractor flight was already gone, climbing into the Afghan sky. Sarah passed out shortly after takeoff. Rodriguez sat beside her, keeping pressure on her wounds, wondering what the hell he'd just gotten himself into. 24 hours later, Sarah woke in a hospital bed in Qatar. Rodriguez was asleep in a chair beside her. Standing at the foot of her bed was a woman in civilian clothes with a Department of Justice badge clipped to her belt. "Commander Mitchell," the woman said. "My name is Special Agent Maria Santos. We received your code black transmission. We've been waiting a long time for someone to come forward with evidence against Sentinel Defense Group." Sarah's hand instinctively went to her pocket. The drive was gone. "We have it," Agent Santos said, reading her panic. "It's safe, and it's exactly what we needed. The convoy you mentioned. We intercepted it at Bagram, seized the entire shipment, made 42 arrests including 3 colonels, a Navy captain, and 12 private contractors." "The captain at Fob Falcon?" Sarah asked. "In custody. He's already trying to make a deal." Sarah closed her eyes, relief flooding through her. "Corporal Chen, is she?" "Also in custody, but as a witness, not a suspect. She's being debriefed now. She's going to be fine, Commander. Thanks to you both, we've shut down the largest military corruption case in modern history." Rodriguez stirred, waking up. He saw Agent Santos and started to stand, but she waved him down. "At ease, Corporal, you're a hero. You just don't know it yet." Over the next 3 weeks, the story exploded across every news channel. The military corruption scandal made headlines around the world. Sentinel Defense Group collapsed overnight. Dozens of officers were court-martialed. Congressional hearings were launched. And through it all, Sarah recovered quietly in a military hospital in Germany, guarded now not by captors but by protectors. Chen visited her there 4 weeks after everything had gone down. The young Marine looked different, older somehow, carrying the weight of what they'd been through. "How are you feeling?" Chen asked. "Like I got shot and stabbed," Sarah said with a slight smile. "But alive thanks to you." "You saved my life first," Chen pointed out. "In that alley, you could have let me just treat you and move on, but you trusted me with the code." "I recognized your name," Sarah admitted. "Maya talked about you. Said her little sister was the toughest Marine she'd ever met. Said if anything ever happened to her, I should find you." Chen's eyes filled with tears. "They found her, did they tell you? Your evidence, it led them to a black site in Syria. She was there along with 2 other intelligence officers who'd gotten too close to the truth. They're all coming home." Sarah reached out and took Chen's hand. "Then we did it. We finished what they started." "At what cost?" Chen asked quietly. "You'll never go back to the SEALs. Rodriguez and I will probably never serve overseas again. We're marked now. Everyone knows our faces." "No," Sarah said firmly. "Everyone knows we're the ones who told the truth when it mattered, who stood up when it was hard, who chose what was right over what was easy. That's not a mark, Chen. That's a badge of honor." 6 months later, Sarah stood in the Pentagon briefing room, wearing her dress uniform for the first time since the scandal broke. Beside her stood Chen and Rodriguez, both also in full dress uniform. The Secretary of Defense stepped to the podium. "Today, we honor 3 service members who demonstrated extraordinary courage in the face of corruption and danger. Their actions exposed a criminal enterprise that had infiltrated the highest levels of military operations. They risked everything to protect the integrity of the United States Armed Forces." He read their citations: the Distinguished Service Medal for Sarah, the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for Chen, the Bronze Star with Valor for Rodriguez. But the real moment came after the ceremony, when a woman in an Air Force uniform approached them. She looked thin, haunted, but alive. "Maya," Chen whispered, and threw her arms around her sister. Sarah watched the reunion, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. She'd started this journey as Iron Six, the Navy SEAL who never broke, who never showed weakness, who never asked for help. She'd ended it as just Sarah, a soldier who'd been wounded, who'd been afraid, who needed to trust others to survive. And somehow, that made her stronger than she'd ever been. Rodriguez stood beside her, grinning. "So, Commander, what's next for you?" Sarah looked at the medal in her hands, then at Chen and her sister embracing, then at this young Marine who'd risked everything for someone he barely knew. "I think," she said slowly, "I'm going to teach, share what I learned. Make sure the next generation knows that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and doing what's right anyway." "Sounds good," Rodriguez said. "You'll need an assistant instructor. I'm available." Sarah laughed, the sound surprising even herself. "Yeah, Corporal, I think you might be." As they walked out of the Pentagon together, past the reporters and cameras, past the protesters and supporters, Sarah thought about that alley in Afghanistan. About lying there bleeding, refusing help, carrying a secret that could have died with her. She thought about a rookie Marine who'd known the right words to say. About a code that existed because good people knew that sometimes the system failed, and someone had to stand outside it to make things right. She'd been wounded. She'd been broken. She'd been labeled a troublemaker, a traitor, a threat.